Very excited to have you on the podcast today, Amy. I've been studying your story a lot, and I've been studying a little bit about soursop. And my listeners have listened to me talk a little about soursop and heard the promos because I'm a big fan of it, but we have not done any deep dive into it. So I know I'm excited to learn from you today because when I was approached about Soursop, I'm like, I have never heard of this. I don't know what it is. And I'm really excited to have you tell us more about it. So let's just start with the backstory of how, which is really interesting story, and how you got interested in soursop and how you wanted to make it available to people in the United States who have a hard time getting it.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me on here. We are huge fans, like just become a huge fan recently. And then of course my project manager, who was my right-hand person in cauliflower. And I can't tell the story of cauliflower, or excuse me, of soursop without telling cauliflower. But Jimmy, my project manager who helped me take cauliflower from beginning to the end, is just a huge fan. And she turned me on to you. And I'm so grateful. And I'm just honored to be here. So thank you for
Yes.
that. And yeah, so let me go back a little bit. I think one of the key things to know about my story that I learned many, many years later is the trauma that I experienced as a child, as a teenager, manifested itself in my body. So, one of my key takeaways when I'm talking on podcasts or talking to people is if you have any kind of trauma, you must get it resolved. And I don't know, that looks different for everybody, but for me, it meant counseling. And the counseling didn't happen until I was 50 years old, and I'm
Oh,
50. So I really just
okay.
resolved this trauma 4 years ago. But at the age of 40, one day, and I'm a mom of three, just like you. I have two boys and a girl, been married 26 years. And my one day of 40 years old, I was unable to get out of bed. So this happened about 14 years ago. And I was just, my body was attacking itself with inflammation. And I know that inflammation is definitely a hot topic, and we all have some form of inflammation in our body. So, flashback to when I was a child, I was raised by a single mom. My dad was in and out of my life. He was an alcoholic drug addict. It was a very difficult time being raised by a single mom. My mom, as I've learned in therapy, the rage that she expressed was just lack of control and being scared. But as a child, you don't know that. So it was a difficult time for me. And there was a lot of really difficult, hard experiences that I shoved down and never resolved or never got help for. Now, fast forward when I met my husband, one of the things I prayed for my whole life was a family. So here I am, a mom of three kids. I'm married. I have a family, the thing that I prayed for the most. And so I went to the extreme of trying to create these experiences that I never had as a child. And one of them was family fun night, pizza and board games, or pizza and a movie. And so we used to do that on Friday night. And this one particular Saturday, I woke up and I literally couldn't get out of bed. So fast forward, I went to the doctor, Western medicine, which my husband's a physician. So we often battle holistic versus Western in our household. But at the time, I went to Western medicine and they diagnosed me with lupus and Sjogren's, two autoimmune inflammation attacking your body diseases, basically. And I now know from my treatment that I received in counseling the last 4 years that it is the unresolved trauma that probably manifested itself. Because if you don't take care of your trauma, eventually your body's gonna take care of it for you and show up in some form. So it's really important to take care of your traumas and get the help you need. But I didn't know anything about autoimmune conditions, and the thing that the physicians did was they injected me with steroids. They put me on Plaquenil, which was the drug that everybody talked about during COVID. And so it was a really difficult time because the side effects of steroids, as you know, you don't sleep, and then lack of sleep. I mean, you don't sleep when you're injecting them, can make you feel crazy. So I went into a deep depression. I felt very crazy during that time. And for about 9 months, I wasn't functioning. So much so that my youngest, who's the same age as your youngest, was 2 at the time, and he had to go live with my in-laws, and that was probably the lowest I've ever been. Yeah, I used to not be able to tell it without crying. It's the lowest I've ever been. I felt I didn't have Jesus in my life. I didn't grow up with religion at that time. So, now I look at tough times and I have something to lean into, and I see the results of leaning into that. But at the time, I didn't have that. And so suicide was definitely something that I thought hard about. Um, and my husband was very concerned too. And one day I woke up and I'm like, okay, for my kids and for my husband and to get my baby back, I need to figure this out. So I went and I met with, we lived in Northern California at the time. And have you heard about Rob Wolf? He's a big paleo
Yeah.
guy. Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So Rob owned the first CrossFit gym in Northern California. And so Jim and I, my husband and I used to work out at CrossFit before I got really sick. So I went there and I talked to Rob, and he said, let's do an elimination diet on you because I believe food is medicine. And he used to be vegan, and then
Yeah.
he went paleo, and he's got a whole story and a great book and all of that. So I went to him and we did the elimination diet and we slowly added things in. And what I found was that I needed to be gluten-free and grain-free. And so I started feeling really good. I basically was taking myself off my own medications, and the doctors were okay with that. And so it was awesome. And by the way, at one time, I was on 6 medications
Wow.
at 40 years old, going from none, 0 to 6.
Yeah.
Um, and so
Probably all interacting, and
Oh, it was like a medication for the side effect.
yeah.
I couldn't sleep and I was going crazy. So then I had a sleep medication. And so I became really passionate about natural alternatives to medications. So one of the medications that they put me on was Wellbutrin for depression. And I started taking myself off of that on my own. Big no-no if you're on any kind of
Right.
antidepressants. You do not take yourself off of them because it has adverse reactions if you don't titrate slowly off of them. So once I got myself all in balance, fast forward, I was starting to feel so good and I wanted to pay it forward to other people. And so I went to Martha Beck coaching. I became a health coach, and I had lost like 40 pounds and I was doing very well, got off all my medications. So what I was focusing on mainly were type 2 diabetics and getting them off their medication and just changing their lifestyle through food and making food as medicine. And one of the things we were serving at Healthy Happy Hours was this cauliflower pizza crust because I wanted to bring back pizza and board games to my family, but I wanted to be able to do it in a way that I could actually eat it too with them and no more like Domino's or whatever we were ordering at the time, round table pizza. So I found a recipe online. There was just a head of cauliflower in the grocery store and there was nothing else. There was Udi's, which was gluten-free, which is full of fillers, which actually caused more problems than a Domino's pizza for me. And so we started serving at the Healthy Happy Hours. During my coaching time, we started serving the cauliflower pizza crust. And I'm getting to soursop, I promise. This is getting a little bit longer than I
Well, this is important.
anticipated.
No.
But I feel like if, anybody's experienced anything that I have, if one thing helps them, that would be great. So people love the cauliflower pizza crust and they encouraged me to take it to farmers market with my kids. And I thought this is a great way for the kids to experience talking to adults, having a job. This will be a fun experience. So we took it to farmers market and literally it blew up and it went viral. Like it went nuts. And one of the stories of one of our clients, because I believe in sharing client testimonials, I know you do too. And I think that's the best way to, if you have a product or a service to sell, is by referrals and by other people's success instead of just talking about your product. And so we shared a story of Jessie and her daughter, Kenzie. And Kenzie had severe autism, nonverbal actually. And Jessie had weighed about 300 pounds. She was a single mom of 4 kids, and single moms were very near and dear to my heart based on my experience. So we sent her a bunch of pizza crusts because Kenzie's doctor put her on a low carb diet. And so that was helping her with her autism. And 7 months later, Jessie called me and she lived about an hour and a half away from me and said, "Can you come visit me? I have a surprise for you." And when I went up there, and we had been sending enough pizza crusts for 7 months for her to have it like twice a day. And she was making other things out of it, like similar to the recipes I have in my cookbook, lasagna and different things like that. But Jessie would have to sit with Kenzie and eat because Kenzie would only eat if Jessie was sitting with her. So when Jessie opened the door 7 months later, I about fell over because Jessie had lost almost 100 pounds. Now, you and I both don't recommend losing 100 pounds in 7 months, but that's just what happened with Jessie while sitting there eating Kenzie low carb. But the miracle was Kenzie came running up to me, hugged my legs, and started talking. And she was able to talk. And so the surprise that Jessie had for me was that Kenzie was going to be able to go to public school with an aide and that she was talking, which was a miracle.
Yes.
Yeah, so we shared that story on Facebook and it went viral. And again, there was only a head of cauliflower in the grocery store. There was another veggie pizza out that had cauliflower in it, but they were called a veggie pizza and not really well known. They had cottage cheese and some other things in there that wasn't conducive to my condition, that's for sure. So that story went viral and we were off to the races. And by the end of that year, by the beginning of next year, we were selling like a pizza crust every 3 seconds online. And I had to quickly learn how to be a CEO. I hired my friends and family because I had no money, even though we were selling a lot, my margins were crazy. I mean, I did this for myself. And we always talk about, Rory Vaden says this all the time, serve the person you once were. And I was serving the person I once was. I wasn't doing this to create some big business, but it became a very big business very quickly. And so to try to make a long story short, which isn't happening, I'm sorry. Fast forward to 2019, I could see that this business now was well over 8 figures and I was in over my head, so to speak. Grocery stores were reaching out to me, which is unheard of. Walmart and Whole Foods, they were calling me to get the product in. So I decided that I was going to sell a portion of it off. My family had been through some pretty traumatic issues that happened in Northern California. It was a campfire called the Camp Fire. You being a Green Bay fan, Aaron Rodgers was heavily involved helping out the little town of Chico and Paradise. The town of Paradise burned down. It was a major fire, so 48,000 people displaced. And it so happened to be that my mom and my stepdad, my mom had remarried, and my aunt, who had no children, lived in Paradise. So I happened to be at a Erwin McManus event in LA when this happened, a Mosaic conference. And I rushed home and they were all in my house because they were evacuated. And while their homes didn't actually burn, they couldn't go back because there was no electricity and no water. I mean, the town literally burned to the ground. My aunt's house was the only one standing in a neighborhood with about 80 homes. And actually 3 people died because a lot of elderly people lived on that street. So that was the real reason. And I skipped it. One of the most important things in 2015 on Halloween night, I accepted Jesus into my life. And the company went viral in January of 2017 after many, many prayers and a vision that I had about sharing Jessie's story. And so I believe God just really, really worked miracles in that business and opened so many doors for me. And so when the venture capitalists came and they wanted to buy cauliflower, I saw that as a way to get back to my life again and being a mom and a wife and the ability to help my family who was displaced because their houses didn't burn, they were unable to get the insurance. And nobody in my family had wealth or had, a lot of money, blue collar workers, just, so it was a way for me to help. What I didn't know is what typical venture capitalists do. And they come in and while they told me, my team would stay, the recipe would stay, and I would always be a part of the company and I would be on the board. Pretty much the opposite happened. And they fired my team, which again is friends, close friends, a couple family members. So that was very upsetting. They changed the recipe and they added psyllium husk, which actually wasn't a bad thing to do. They actually didn't alter the recipe too much. It wasn't a bad thing. And then they put me on sabbatical and they changed all my passwords because I was not agreeing with the way that they were doing things. And I was lacking emotional intelligence because honestly, this business was my 4th child. Like I went just almost obsessed with it. I was obsessed with the feedback I was getting from the people that were eating the product and how it was changing people's lives. And I was like, wow, pizza is changing people's lives. And we actually coined that phrase, if cauliflower can be a pizza, you, my dear, can do anything. And so it's just like, I had that in me. Like I saw the miracles that were happening. So we moved to Florida. We moved out of California. I moved everybody to Florida, my aunt, my mom, my stepdad, my 3 kids, my husband, excuse me. And what looked like my dream life, I bought my dream house on the water and things were great. But the kids would go off to school. My husband was retired for a short time and couldn't handle it. He wanted to go back to medicine. He truly enjoys helping people. It's not about the money for him at all. And so he went back to work, and everybody would go to school and work, and I would cry all day because I lost my identity. I put all my identity into cauliflower foods and I lost it. And so during that time, unfortunately, I had really become a lot closer to my mom too. And during that time, my mom was diagnosed with cancer, breast cancer, and so was Jimmy, who was my right-hand person with cauliflower. She was also diagnosed with breast cancer, and almost within like a week of each other. And so I went on a mission to look at holistic ways, because at this point, I'm all in holistically, right? I've seen what it's done for me, and I've seen what it's done for other people, and using food as medicine. And really, by the way, I just want to say something to your people, and they may know this already. When I say food is medicine, it means you have to really do your due diligence on the labels. And you have to go the step further with that. You can't just read labels, because the FDA allows a 20% variance on labels. So you could have 20% more. Yeah, you can look it up. It's a real thing. You could have 20% more sugar or oil or anything bad in your product and not claim it. The FDA allows us people that are putting out food products with labels a 20% variance on our label. Nobody else does that.
That is a
Yes.
step. I did not know that. You would think I would have known that, but I didn't. That is
Yeah,
crazy.
look it up. You can just look up FDA 20% variance and you can see it. So
Oh,
what I encourage people is, don't just look at the labels, because there are big brands out there, big box brands that I know are taking advantage of this. Look at what the product is and who the person is behind the product. I think that's really important, and see why they created that product. Funny thing is, I was offered at a pizza, it was a big pizza convention in Las Vegas, and the co-packer for one of my competitors, because as soon as you're popular, everybody comes out with a cauliflower pizza version, and now everybody's coming out with these soursop products. And because they're not heavily regulated, they are putting things in, and if they've got a lot of money to market things in a way that manipulates people, they will, unfortunately. So I think it's really important to look at why somebody's created this product and what their mission is and who they are, and before you eat the product. I think that's very, very important. But going to Las Vegas, and I'm kind of swirling for a moment, but a co-packer offered me to make the cauliflower pizza. He makes one of my competitors that's very well known, and it would have been a lot cheaper. I would have made a ton more money, but I wouldn't have been able to eat it, and then I would have had to lie, and I was not about to do that. So I lost the opportunity to make a lot of money, but I stayed true to myself, and I believe that's important. So look at the founders and look at their stories. I think that's important when you're looking at products. And yeah, do my fact checking on the FDA. You'll find it. So so I went looking for a holistic way. My mom was going to go traditional chemo radiation, and Jimmy was going holistic, natural. And I won't tell Jimmy's story, because that's for her to tell, and it's very sacred to her, but she stayed true to herself and what she did. But for my mom, I was buying the fruit soursop to help her offset the radiation and things that she was going through. And the fruit was hard to get, it was extremely expensive. And how I discovered the fruit was, I met a lady whose daughter had gone through chemo and radiation. The daughter was in high school, and she was telling me about soursop, and not to be like, I mean, the visual on this isn't very pretty, but her daughter was getting lesions on her rectum as well as on her throat. from the treatments, and she was having a hard time eating and swallowing. And so the soursop was soothing, but it also had cancer killing properties, which I can't even talk about. But there is a new article in WebMD, which I value, that came out April 20th, 2024. It's a summary that a physician summarizes on what they're seeing and the new studies that are coming out in the UK on graviola, aka soursop, and what it does to rats with cancer cells,
Okay.
and how it blocks the cancer cells from growing. So for her daughter, it was soothing, and it was taking the lesions off of her rectum as well as the back of her throat. And she was one of very few kids in the cancer center that was able to swallow and not have a lot of pain. And so Jamaica started making this soursop tea and soursop smoothies for all the kids in there. And it really made a big difference. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to try this for my mom. But like I said, it was hard to find. And when I did find it, and I'm blessed to be in Florida because it's grown down in southern Florida, it was like $12.99 a pound. So one piece of fruit was like over $30.
Wow.
And so the entrepreneur in me, and the person that was able to take a cauliflower pizza crust and be the first one and build $1 billion category. I clarify this, I am not a billionaire. It's a category and I don't own the category, although I say I own it because I created it. But I was like, I can do something with this. I know I can. I can make this readily available, because I started drinking them too. When you make a smoothie with a $30 piece of fruit and the person has a glass and there's still 2 glasses left, you're going to find a way to use it. Like, I mean, those smoothies were expensive. So I saw it like really reduce my inflammation levels, and I started feeling better. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. Like this, let me start doing some more research. This has so many more benefits than just cancer. And it really does. And so I started working on innovation, and I met a great family owned innovation team, and they had labs and they had the ability to make the gummies. And I worked with them for a long time. Matter of fact, it was during COVID. If I could have put this product out in COVID, I think it could have helped a lot of people. But my attorney was quick to show me in the fine print that cauliflower owned anything I created. And so by the way, you're muted. I can't hear you.
Oh, really?
Oh, now I can. Now I
Okay.
can. Okay, sorry about that.
That's
I
okay.
thought you were talking and I couldn't hear you. I'm talking so much. I'm going to stop talking in a minute, but I'm almost done.
No,
So,
that's good.
yes.
That's why you're here, to tell your story.
So the fine print said that cauliflower would own everything, and I wasn't about to put this in their hands. So I had to work on the back end to get out of my contract and sell off. I ended up selling the rest of my shares for pennies on the dollar. And again, I told you this before, the rejection I felt from the venture capitalists, I believe was God's protection and redirection. Had I not been on sabbatical, I would have never discovered Soursop. I wouldn't have had the time to take my mom to every appointment, which helped our relationship, which has always been a little strained from my childhood. It helped us bond. It helped me find Soursop. I wouldn't have been in that position, which I now have out in the world. So when I went to sell the rest of my shares, some of my family members, including my husband, was like, how can you sell this for pennies on the dollar? Like, and I will tell you that fourth child, that emotional attachment I had to cauliflower was gone. I was all in on soursop. And soursop helped me heal from that, as well as I ended up going to counseling. And I think it's really important. I started doing that trauma therapy I talked about, and during right after COVID, and I did EMDR and all of that, which also helped me mourn the loss and get rid of that attachment I had to cauliflower. So I was okay to sell for pennies on the dollar, because I wasn't in it for the money to begin with. And I wanted to put soursop out to the world. And we were the first gummy to hit. There were a few products out there that had like soursop bitters. There was a soursop drink, and there was a soursop pulp. So we were the first to put the shakes and the gummies out. And the shakes were a combination of superfruit foods. So we added magnesium, turmeric, elderberries, goji berries, blueberries, a lot of antioxidants, a lot of superfoods. But I have to say, I think Soursop is the king of all kings of superfruit. It's grown in the Caribbean. Most people have not heard of it. It has many different names. Guanabana, which anybody in Latin America is going to say I just said that wrong. Graviola, soursop, pawpaw. It's got all kinds of names as I'm learning. When I went venturing out to really dive into soursop, I went to an island called Seychelles off of South Africa, and I found some soursop farms. And it is, cauliflower is ugly. Nobody liked cauliflower. It was like the last veggie standing on a veggie tray. Well, soursop, the fruit, is not a pretty fruit. It's big. In Seychelles, it's on these trees, and it's big and it's spiky and it's ugly looking, really ugly. And when you cut open a soursop that's ripe, it's like a white, creamy, almost fleshy kind of fruit, and it's got black seeds that are extremely toxic. Cannot eat the seeds. And I worry about these brands that are coming out, because if you look on Amazon, there are so many brands out there. And one of the things that I learned from cauliflower is that co-packer or your own manufacturing facility, which we ended up owning our own with cauliflower, is so important that you do things right and don't cut corners for costs to save. It's very important. So I get concerned that some of these products might be just throwing the fruit in and chopping up the seeds, and they're extremely toxic. They can cause damage and not be helpful. So it scares me when I see these products coming out so quickly, because I hate to say this, but during the cauliflower days, even Oprah had a cauliflower, and you might as well have eaten Domino's pizza because it was better for you than Oprah's. And I think she took it off the market, but it was so bad for you. And I wrote to her, and she probably never saw it, but it was like, how can you don't realize it? I'm sure somebody on your team is doing this. But I worry about the soursop products. Again, I think you have to really look at who's behind them. Our manufacturing facility, family owned, is top notch. It is nothing like I've ever seen before. And I've been in a lot of manufacturing facilities. They're very, very careful, and it's an amazing facility. The other one that we use for the shakes is also amazing and very, very careful, and a lot of certifications behind them. So I know that our product is really good. We source our ingredients out of Brazil, so we're not using China. That was another thing I learned with cauliflowers. One of the main competitors, and I won't say her name, and I probably would have used to say her name in the past, but I won't say it now, but she's using pureed cauliflower that comes in like ketchup bags from China. And I cringed because we used fresh cauliflower. Our manufacturing facility was in the Salina Valley, and near like the garlic fields and artichokes. And a lot of those farmers switched their crops out to cauliflower because it was booming so much. So we're sourcing really clean ingredients, and we added echinacea and elderberries into our gummies for flavor, for natural flavoring, but also to really boost that immunity. So yeah, that's how it came about. Ironically, I was diagnosed with breast cancer during this time, probably from the trauma that I felt from being rejected. And crazy enough, and Western medicine will tell you it probably was never there to begin with, but I went back to see the radiologist, and it had disappeared. So I was very blessed. My husband was like, we'll get through this. And I'm like, oh, I'm just doubling up on my soursop. I'm not saying that's what it is. And I rarely tell this story because I'm not here to claim that soursop cures cancer at all. I just know there's a lot of studies going on in the UK and other areas where it's showing positive results in rats. So yeah, it disappeared, and he was like, it's not there, it's gone. And that was a miracle for me. I think it helped my mom. She had a big lump that was, after she went through all her treatment, she started taking soursop on a regular basis. She's a type 2 diabetic, and she was on Ozempic from her doctor for diabetes, not for weight loss. My mom doesn't need to lose weight. She's actually thinner than I am. And the doctor took her off because she was taking so much soursop, it was interfering with her blood sugars. And so
Oh,
she took off
wow.
Ozempic, and now my mom just takes, I had capsules that I had made. I haven't launched the capsules yet, but my mom is doing the capsules. She's not a huge gummy person, nor is she a huge shake person. So we will be launching the capsules at one point, but she has a lot of capsule samples that she's doing. So she had a lump in her lymph node and it went away. Now it could have been like a fatty tumor or something that went away. I'm not, again, I cannot make those claims. And we never will advertise Soursop for that, but I know what it's done for my inflammation. And so, yeah, that's, that's how it all came about. And that was a very long story.
No, that is an awesome story though, because you can't just jump in and be like, yeah, I love soursop. Here's why. It's like you gotta have the backstory in there and the just what you've seen from it. I did not know that the part about you having breast cancer either. So
Not
um
something I share because again, we don't promote it for
yeah,
cancer at all. If I have somebody that I know has been diagnosed with it, I send them the product and it's showing. By the way, we're doing one of the things that we're doing to separate ourselves from other supplements because anybody can put out a supplement right now. And
yep,
that's very scary. And it's giving supplements a bad name. And I believe we need supplements. I believe we need that bridge from what our food is lacking for our bodies. And not all of our bodies produce what we need. So I believe supplements are important. And I never used to be a supplement taker or a vitamin taker, even back in the day. So I do see the need for them, but when they're being abused, they get a bad rap. So one of the things we're doing to separate ourselves from other supplements, and in particular, we were the first on Soursop and nobody really knew what Soursop was. Our company name is actually Be Me, Beyond Medicine. But for SEO purposes and education purposes, the product is Soursop Nutrition. So we're trying to educate people, but what we're doing is a double-blind placebo-controlled study, which is very expensive,
yeah.
and people aren't going to invest in money to do that. But we are on just the cusp of starting that to differentiate ourselves from the other people. And one of the things we're looking at is blood sugar levels and inflammation levels. So it won't be a study about cancer, but they are doing a lot more research on it over in the UK. My rheumatologist left and I had a new one. I went to go see her and she was from the Caribbean. I'm like, have you ever heard of Soursop? And she's like, oh, yes, my grandmother has used it for ages. And she was telling me how her grandmother would make it for them when they were colic, when they had colic kids, and it would help soothe their tummies. And I knew it had gut health benefits as well. So yeah, it's some people know it and every person I've ever met, and I meet a lot of people that are very familiar with it in Miami. Seems like Miami's been my second home lately. I don't live in Miami, but a lot of people, a lot of things are going on with Soursop down there, get so excited about it and have a story of how it's helped them or helped a family member. So it's been really rewarding. It's been very rewarding.
Yeah, it is. It's gonna explode. It is once people catch wind. And like you said, there's already competitors there, which can be a good thing, and but not always. Um,
Yeah.
so let's talk about the actual fruit itself a little bit.
Mhm.
So I love the gummies. Like we've had the gummies here for a long time. They're really good, and I usually use them like a dessert because
Oh.
they are they're like sugar, I just like to eat them with my meal. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's makes a difference or not, but what is the potency of like the two gummies versus a shake versus if you were actually eating the fruit and you said it's just the pulp that is in,
Yeah.
is there a difference between like the fresh versus dried, or does the mechanism stay the same?
It definitely has a difference. So what we've learned, and I love that we've done a soft launch and I love that we're doing a study. What we learned with the gummies is, well, first of all, the innovation team, which again, we've been working on this for 3 years, they were eating like 30 gummies a day for like 30 days straight to see what was happening.
Lucky
And
them.
so we found, our dosage on our original bottle says 2 gummies, but I take 6 a day. I take 3 in the morning and 3 in the evening. And I really believe, and again, this is just me and the innovation team working on things. This isn't even our clinical trial results, but I believe it's weight based on how it's going to affect you. So if you're a tiny person, do 2. If you're a larger person, you might need to increase it. My mom is taking 3 a day. But again, she's taking the capsules, but it's the same amount of graviola in the capsules that we have in the gummies. Now, the shakes to me, especially if you're looking for weight management, I don't like to use weight loss, but weight management. I feel the shakes, because of turmeric and various other ingredients in the shakes, are a little bit more potent as far as not the soursop, but just the other ingredients that we have in there. And so I'm not a shake girl. I was really resistant to the shakes because I don't like powder and water and drink it. But what I love about it, and we probably, when we rebrand, we'll call it a boost, a food boost, because again, I believe we need that bridge between our regular food and Western medicine to try not to get on Western medicine. And so the shakes are great in yogurt. Put a scoop of in yogurt. We have tons of recipes online on soursopnutrition.com. We have a pumpkin flavor because I'm obsessed with pumpkin. So we'll be doing a lot of pumpkin things in the next couple months. But we have a pumpkin flavor. It makes a great pumpkin soup, makes pumpkin muffins, and you're food boosting it. It does not change the outcome or the mechanism with heat. So it's okay to cook with it. It's okay to use it in a smoothie. One of my favorite go-tos, and I had it right before we got on because I replace a meal with it, is I use the chocolate shake and I put a half banana, a half avocado. The healthy fat of the avocado makes the smoothie smooth. I put the mix in, and then I use, because there's no protein, and by the way, I am playing with a shake and adding protein, but some people like pea protein, some people like whey protein. I mean, it's just, it's controversial. And Jimmy's like, let them put their own protein in. Just let's leave it and let them put their own protein in. But I've had such strong feedback, which is why we've done a soft launch. We haven't gone all in. We're looking for like a face of the brand. Timeline has some faces. Thomas DeLauer was a big face for us for cauliflower. Aaron Priya, they did a lot and they believed in the product and they used it every day. So we're looking for that special person that can really help us get the message out there and educate people on soursop. But going back to my shake, I like to use some kind of a protein shake in there as my liquid. And then I put a little bit of almond butter and mix it, and it replaces a meal. And because there's so much fiber in the shake, which you don't have that same amount of fiber, there's a lot of fiber in the fruit. You don't have the same amount of fiber. That's where it would be different in the gummies as you do in the shake. So the fiber is going to make you fuller if you're looking for weight loss or weight management. Our current messaging right now is nature's version of Ozempic. And the reason why we're doing that is because of the early results that we're seeing. And we know that it helps with metabolic health and potentially influences the pathways in fat metabolism and the way the body breaks down carbohydrates. It does it a lot slower. And then, of course, if you're eating the fruit, which again, like our local fruit stand, I encouraged him to find it for me, but he's charging $15.99 a pound. And he's like, Amy, I can get 1 box a month and I have a waiting list. He's like, I have a waiting list. You're on the top of it, but then there's all these other people that want the fruit. So we're the closest thing out there on the market to the fresh fruit. And if people aren't going to spend $30 or $40 on one piece of fruit. And in his case, it's going to be 50 on up. They're not going to spend that. I just getting ready to have an investor retreat, because one of the things I did differently with this company is I raised capital before with friends and family that wanted to go all in with me. And so we're doing this Lake Tahoe getting together at the end of this month. And I just ordered a bunch of fruit because I'm going to make them fresh fruit smoothies, but I'm also going to incorporate our shakes into them. And I'm not kidding. I bought 3 pieces of fruit and it cost me $327 that I'm going to take. So I've decided that we're going to have a little taste sample of it, but I'm probably not going to be making smoothies out of it. It's just to give them the taste of the actual real fruit, which to me tastes like a combination of pineapple and strawberry.
Okay. So it's pretty sweet.
It
Even
is
though,
sweet.
and that's interesting because if you're finding that it's helpful for blood sugar and
Mhm.
for metabolic purposes,
It
but
is.
that's super interesting. Yeah, I just used I had a pack of the apple flavored shake and I use it for apple. I used one of your recipes on your website and I did the apple dip with cottage cheese. And it was so good because we have two apple trees in our yard and I really try to do like if I can eat things locally, I try to do that. I'm like,
I
well,
love that. I love
great
that.
way to because I love apple dip and yes, so there's apple, pumpkin, and chocolate, correct?
So, yes, and I struggled with that. The apple's going to be reformulated for sure. I struggled with what do I do? And then I was like, I'm going to do what I love because again, I'm trying to serve the person I once was. I'm going to do what I love. I know the recipes I can make with these. I'm not a huge chocolate lover, but it happens to be my favorite one right now and I'm drinking a shake every day as a meal replacement. I'm doing kind of a little test and I haven't even put it out there yet, but I went for a week where I ate really horrible pizza, hamburgers, rice. I felt miserable. I was sick. I was inflamed. And then I went in where I was replacing a meal with the shake and upping my gummies to see if that is all I did. I didn't take any of my medications that I normally would have to if I was eating horrible like that, but just very inflamed, and to see how the results were with that. Checking my blood sugars every day, checking my blood pressure. That is one thing that I think you have to be cautious of. If you have somebody that is taking blood pressure medicine, it definitely lowers your blood pressure. So people have to be careful with that. If they're on a blood pressure medication. But if you're looking to get off your medication, this might be a natural way. And of course, you need to consult with your doctor on that. But yeah, it's the fruit itself is so high in fiber that automatically it's so satiating, it makes you full. But the shakes offer that same feeling. And people have told me they feel full with the gummies as well. We're coming out with a sleep line. My husband's board certified in sleep. So we'll have an app, and I'm all about natural sleep. I can't even like it's natural. It's going back to your natural rhythm. I cannot take any kind of sleep aid over the counter or prescription. It just really jacks me up. So it's going to be completely natural with an app, and he's going to be leading a lot of that. And then we have a skincare line that's already ready to come out. And we have a skincare gummy where we've been able to remove the sugar alcohol. We have a little bit of sugar alcohol. It's probably the most healthiest in our current gummies, which I don't like, I'll be honest with you, but we couldn't get it to work without it. But we found a way to work it with the skincare line gummies with citrus. It's an orange gummy and it has a citrus flavor, very natural. So that'll be coming out along with 5 skincare products where we use stem cells, not human stem cells, apple stem cells from a sugar apple. Have you ever tried a sugar apple? Okay,
No, I don't think
sugar
I have because
apple
I haven't heard
is
of it.
very okay. So try to look again, another very expensive fruit, not grown here. But we're using soursop, of course. We're using Irish sea moss and sugar and stem cells from sugar apples for the skincare line. It is for those people out there that use fillers or Botox, this is going to be your dream. This is
Oh,
going to be amazing.
I haven't used any of those because I'm way too scared.
I know. My
I'm
husband's like, don't you dare ever do that. But I can see, I don't even have my own samples to use. I'm not kidding. I have an office in my home. It's outside my home actually, because we live on some acres. And I think some of my relatives came over here, some of my husband's relatives, and took all of my serum that I had as samples because I can't find them and they're gone. So we will be launching that.
those.
Jimmy was an esthetician. She was my esthetician
Oh,
when I
okay.
was diagnosed with Sjogren's. I couldn't use mascara, so she used to be a lash technician, and she used to put my lashes on. And we would talk about Jesus actually. And you know how I don't know if you've ever had lashes. You probably haven't,
No.
but if anybody has, it takes about an hour, and so you get to really bond with somebody. So I was able to take Jimmy away from that, and she was my right hand person building cauliflower. And funny, we often say Google was how we got our MBA, and we end up being the pizza crust that Google used in San Francisco. But Jimmy, being an esthetician, nutrition has always been into natural. Everything is natural that she puts in her body, especially after having breast cancer. So she's leading that innovation on the skincare. And I started it before she came back to work for me a couple of years ago, and she has removed anything, these things that I thought were natural. She's like, nope, you're not having this. And it's like in everything. And I'm like, oh, okay. So we've had to switch our innovation team. It's taken us a little bit longer, a lot more money, but when it comes out, it might be the star product.
That's awesome. Is it geared
Yeah.
toward more like aging? Is it acne? Is it all
So
of the
we have an anti-aging line and then we have a youth line. And no, my daughter had some hormonal cystic acne, and I do think it helps. She's very into the vitamin C serum that we have. Um, Soursop has mass amounts of vitamin C in it, which is why it's just, it's loaded with antioxidants, and vitamin C is so good for your skin, but it's so good for your immunity, to build your
and
immunity.
your
So
adrenals?
exactly. And so it has the vitamin C serum is like no other. And the original innovation team was like, you need to make all these products $100 plus. I'm not going to do that. The margins are already phenomenal on skincare, which I didn't realize. No need to make it so expensive. I want everyone to be able to use it. So yeah, youth line, not necessarily, it might be something that we test. We have been talking to a dermatologist that does a lot of studies out of New York, and he works with a lot of people at Harvard also. And he has convinced me that it's important for me to invest in a biopsy skin study, especially if we want these products to go into dermatology offices.
Yeah.
So at some point, we will do a biopsy study. You don't need a lot of people for that, but that's a little more invasive. And we'll be able to tell if it affects any kind of acne. But it definitely helps with wrinkles and smoothing your skin. And don't judge my skin right now, but
Oh,
I think it's still everlasting, even though I haven't used it for a while. But yeah, it's going to be amazing.
your products got stolen from you, so you have
Well, I don't know. I shouldn't throw them under the bus, but yeah, the serum has disappeared a little bit in my office.
someone just used it all. Who knows? But
Yeah.
so with soursop, with the dosage, and using it day to day or multiple times throughout the day or week, I'm sure that matters. Is this something that people can just like, oh shoot, I forgot to take my gummies, like do it a couple times a week? I would imagine if you're more consistent with it, that would be more.
So, for example, my mom, who is replacing her Ozempic, needs to take it daily, and
Okay.
she still has the little monitor on her arm and checking her
Yeah.
blood glucose levels. Again, I can't recommend this for diabetes, for type 2 diabetes treatment.
Yep.
I can't recommend it for cancer.
Can't link
What
it to disease state. Yep.
Yeah, I have a good friend that was using it every day, no, never getting sick. And then she ran out, didn't use it, got sick, had to go on a CPAP, or CPAP. I'm talking sleep now. She had to go on a Z-Pack before her trip to Europe. And I said, were you taking soursop? That's so weird that you got sick. And she's like, I had run out of it. And I'm like, oh, but there are some studies, not our studies. There is one study done many, many years ago in rats that said a enormous amount of soursop crossed over the neurological brain barrier and caused some Parkinson's like symptoms. I never bring this up, but because your audience is so well versed and they'll probably research it, that might pop up. I was very sensitive to that, obviously. One of our investors is a neurosurgeon. So I was very sensitive to the amount that was used. And we're in very healthy amounts that you can take every day. Like I said, the innovation team had been eating 30 gummies a day for 30
Yeah,
days
that's a lot.
straight. You would have to eat an enormous amount of the fruit and possibly some of the toxic seeds and the leaves in order to have any kind of issues like that. There are no reported human issues like that. And I've been doing it for 3 years, so I don't see that as an issue, but that did pop up on one particular thing. And then, of course, now that it's becoming popular, There's like an ambulance chasing law firm that has gotten involved. I don't know to what extent, but again, there's no, I personally feel like our dosing is strategic, and I see other products out there that have like 5,000 milligrams. Matter of fact, one of my innovation teams, like, that's impossible to have what they say they have in there. It can't exist in that small little capsule. So I think you just really have to look at the science behind the brand and the founder behind the brand. If you're looking at our brands, you're going to see that they might cost a little bit more than the others. And that's because of all of the innovation we put, the time, when the study comes out, we will be using that a lot. I know the results are going to come out positive because we've already tested it on so many people, and we're currently, doing that with a sleep line right now. So yeah, I don't feel, and I even have friends that are giving it to their kids, although on the bottle it says 18 and over, and that's standard on any supplement that they say that. But many, my kids take it. Of course, they're older, but I have my 16-year-old, and I'm not saying to promote it for kids either, but my nephew, who is 10, is on the spectrum, and my sister-in-law says it's definitely helping him calm down. So it is great for college students because they tend to have a lot of anxiety, and it's very calming. We have another person that is on our team that has replaced their antidepressant with it because they don't feel anxiety or anxious on it on while taking it. So we're seeing a lot of other benefits to it.
Right.
And we definitely know it's chocked full of oxidants, and it's anti-inflammatory, and it's got the acetogenins, which that normally could affect a normal cell, and that's where they're saying it would cross over. But what they're finding in the UK, and the WebMD article highlights this, is that it's attacking those cancer cells with extra energy, but it's not the ACGs are, because I can never say that word properly, acetogenins. The ACGs are attacking the abnormal cells, but not attacking healthy cells. And the great thing about our product versus, like, let's say a Timeline product, is that it's attacking inflammation, which causes oxidative stress, which is what metabolic diseases come from. So it's attacking the problem before the cell actually gets damaged. So that, Timeline talks about how they replace the bad cells with healthy cells. It's actually attacking that oxidative stress before it actually affects the cells. And then cells that are affected, that are irregular or have more of the compounds that, I guess, cancer cells have more energy is what they use. It's attacking that versus a healthy cell. And they're finding that in studies in the UK. So look at the summary article in WebMD. WebMD is a reliable source, and it was just published April 20th of 2024. And it summarizes that. I'm kind of crossing a line that I've set for myself, and I've never really talked like this on any other podcast, talking about the C word or talking about treatment for diabetes. Because we're not allowed to do that. I don't have FDA clearance to do that. I just know what it's doing for our community that we're close to, that we've tested the product with, and I know what it's done for myself. So I can safely say that using the shake or the gummies as a meal replacement, you're going to have weight management. I can safely say that if you're on blood pressure meds and you start taking our medicine, you need to watch that closely. And I can safely say it does lower blood sugar levels. So if you are a type 2 diabetic, this could be a great option for you. You could work with your doctor, and maybe they lower whatever you're on. And I can safely say that our new marketing message is nature's version of Ozempic. Ozempic is getting, a lot of people are using Ozempic. The gallbladder surgeries have dramatically increased from Ozempic. It's like, I don't quote me, but I think it's like 1 in 4 people. I mean, you're risking that kind of craziness. This is
Yeah.
nature's version. It's so much healthier. And then also it's unrealistic, but they're saying, you need to be on it for the rest of your life. Well, depending, if you're a type 2 diabetic, my mom's insurance was covering it, but if you're using it for weight management, you're paying 700 to 1,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that's not sustainable, nor do you want to be on a synthetic drug that you're injecting into yourself for the rest of your life. This is an excellent alternative, which is why I'm going to do what I said, where I'm going to be putting myself in a pre-diabetic state and then using our products to show how to get out of that. Because I don't think, I think we're going to see, I don't know. Again, I'm not a doctor, I'm married to one, but I think Ozempic is, and all of those products that are becoming so popular, they've been around for years.
Yeah,
They've
yeah.
been around for years,
Or
but
other
some
indications, yes. And
yeah, but it's all
obesity.
about marketing, which is why I want people to do their due diligence beyond marketing, because people have enough money, they can market things any way they can to manipulate all of us. And that
Yeah.
happens all the time.
Yeah, I'm glad you circled back to that because I wanted to. And I just, yeah, I fear for 10 to 20 years from now, if what kind of
Mhm.
reactions we'll see. And
Yeah.
I think if the education is there and the lifestyle factors and the foundations are there, it's one thing. But with a lot of like my dad's been on Jardiance and he eats like a cereal bar and pizza, like what he eats. So anyway, it'll
It's
be,
so hard when you see a loved one,
yeah. Oh
see
gosh.
a
Yeah.
lot. I was
We
on an
could talk a whole
airplane.
hour about but
I was just on a flight less than a month ago, and I happened to be blessed to get bumped up to first class. And a guy kitty cornered to me, you can see them perfectly. He gets out his insulin, injects himself, which I don't know why he didn't have the natural pump on, but he literally gave himself a shot.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then
you
he
don't see that
and then
very
he ate
often.
a bag of potato chips. And I was
Yeah,
like, oh, dude,
because you
no.
dose for the carbs, right? I mean, that's what
Yeah.
you're doing. In
Well, if you use our shakes, you're not even gonna be hungry for those potato chips and you're gonna feel so good. I mean, it's baby steps, right? We all have bad habits. I certainly do. I'm not perfect. I'm not anywhere close to where I want to be in life and so many things, but it's baby steps that eventually build to, and take it one day at a time. It can be overwhelming for people.
Yeah.
Um,
And I just
but
feel like busy moms and just
yeah,
having another tool in the toolbox. And a lot
yes,
of the people who listen to this podcast already do a lot of the foundational things, but they're just looking, they're 90% there. They're looking to get from 90 to 91% or 92%. And anything you can do to feel your absolute best is
yeah.
fantastic.
Which is why I think it's great that you're out there and people like you are educating people, because you're the real thing and people can trust you and they like you. And so they can trust what you put out there. So I love that. And for any of your viewers that want to try the product, if they reach out to me personally on Hey Amy Lacey, because Amy Lacey was already taken. So I'm Hey Amy Lacey, which by the way, I never had Instagram.
What did
I'm
I?
50, I'm 54. I never have an Instagram. And when I put out my book, the publishers, Abrams Publishing out of New York, I put out a cauliflower cookbook. They were like, you have to have Instagram. So I got Instagram in 2019, but now I'm obsessed with it. If you private message me or DM me, I should say, I read all of those. Nobody manages my Instagram, which is why it's a hot mess. But I will be happy to get your address and send you some free product to try.
Oh, wow, that is
So, yeah,
so awesome. I love that about you.
can.
Yeah, that's
And you miss the cauliflower pizza crust. I I have a lot of these in my I'm not even here to pursue this, but I will be happy to send you a cookbook too, because it has the actual original recipe in it,
yeah.
and you can make your cauliflower
I
pizza
know
with
I
fresh
want one
fresh
because I don't
cauliflower.
think they were really ever marked. I don't know if they were in Wisconsin, but probably not.
They were in every Barnes and Noble and every bookstore for a while, but venture
Oh,
capitalists didn't promote it and
okay.
didn't keep promoting it. But yeah, happy to send those because I have like, I don't know, 500 of them in my office somewhere in our
Wow.
warehouse. And then happy to send samples of our shakes and our gummies to people and they can try them. And if
That's
they want more information on them, happy to share some of the clinical data that we've been able to find. When we were doing all of our research before we ever launched the product or before I ever fed it to my family. So happy to send some stuff like that because I know that your community is very smart
yeah.
and not saying that other communities aren't, but they're well versed and they want to know the background and I think really smart
Yes.
actually.
Yeah, last question. Is there any difference between taking the shake or gummy or any of the products on a empty stomach versus with food?
Oh, that's an interesting question because going back to that article that talked about eating too much of the soursop, and it helps with gut health. And one of the things they said was it could make you nauseous if you ate too much. And when I'm talking too much, I'm talking like 10 pounds
Yeah.
of the fruit a day, every day, which we don't have the equivalent to that at
Yeah.
all.
You would go
Now, there
maybe.
is natural, I say natural, there is like a natural stevia, which some people are sensitive to. I personally am very sensitive to it, but it doesn't bother me. I don't feel bloated. I don't have any gassy pains or anything like that. I cannot take sugar alcohols or any kind of stevia normally. So I was really sensitive about that when using the products. Like I have to be able to use it every day on a big level for myself to be able to put it out there. So I've had one person, I take that back. I've had one person tell me that this shake was a little too much for their stomach. I intermittent fast. So at noon I get up, well, I'm already up. I get up really early, but at noon I make myself a shake and I'm on an empty stomach and it's fine. I don't have any problems with it. But again, love to send some samples and see what other people think. Definitely look at our recipes because I believe the shake shouldn't just be water in the mix. I think it should be a food boost, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But there are
Yeah.
people out there that do like it with water because that they're used to drinking shakes like that. I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah. Well, great. And also we'll be doing a giveaway
Yeah.
shortly after this episode airs. So make sure if you're not on my email list, get on the email list. You can find it on my Instagram, Amy's Instagram, Soursop Nutrition. Give them all a follow. And it's a really fun bag of
Yeah.
goodies and those other things
Yeah.
that are really
Yeah.
fun.
I'm excited about that giveaway. It's going to be really cool. It's going to be
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you
Well,
so much. This was so much fun. I know we went way over, but I appreciate you
oh,
letting me just like tell my story. It's kind
mm,
of a long story, but
yeah.
I've learned a lot along the way and I love to share what I've learned. So
Similarities in our lives are really crazy.
I
Crazy.
know.
You're telling your story, I'm like, yep, that's me. Yep, that was me too.
I mean, I love that your son just got his driver's license because mine
Yes.
just today drove to school for the first time without me driving him. And so when I saw that on your post, I was like, oh my gosh, we have very similar.
Yeah, our
So
school doesn't start until after Labor Day here because in Wisconsin you have to eke out every day of summer that, that you
yeah,
can.
I love
But
that. It should
yeah,
be
he
like
drove
that.
to work today. Okay. Trying not to track him on the app or any. All you're doing, two
Yeah.
wonderful companies that are serving so many people in so many ways. And like you said, so many times looking at the founder behind the product is very, very important. And your heart is there. I can tell, I just met you on air a little while ago, but I can definitely tell that your heart is in it and you're there for the right reason. So
Yeah.
thanks for all you're doing. And we'll have everybody there's the link in the show notes for a discount, and we'll also look for that giveaway because you're not going to want to miss that. And then take Amy up on her offer for her.
Yeah, reach out to me. I'm happy to. And if for some reason, you know how sometimes Instagram hides somebody that reaches out to you, keep trying because I promise you I answer every single one if I see it.
Yes.
So, and I'll look at general too. So,
And I'm
yeah,
sure you have like what happens to me a lot of times is some kind of auto responder is generated and then it looks like it was already responded to, so I don't see it. So same. So I get all
yeah.
those
I
little things.
haven't let my team wanted to do that and I didn't let them do that on my personal, but it is on Soursop. So yeah. So yeah. Hey, Amy Lacey. I've got the hey in there before.
Yeah, beautiful.
HEY. Okay. Thank you
Beautiful.
again.
Yes,
Thank you
thank
so
you for
much.
sharing your story. It was really fun to meet you and talk with you and keep doing what you're doing and
Thank
helping
you.
such
Thank you
great work
so
that
much. You're so beautiful. I just wish I wasn't so much older than you. We have the same age kids and I'm so much older. But anyways, thank you again. I really appreciate it. And I know this isn't going to be our last time communicating because you're awesome. I love what you're doing for your community. It means a lot.
Thank you.